So specifically this week, I really want to talk about the uncertainty period that we get when God gives us either a sign, a moment, anything, maybe even any kind of, even if it means something like a distraction or a moment that seems like adversity. When God presents that moment to us, the period where we have to wait until God gives us an answer as to why that specific thing is happening. It can be either good or bad. That moment, that waiting period, what I want to dive into is really what reveal what type of character and who we are as a person, right? That waiting period really reveals a lot about us. And I think that moment specifically can also help us build our character even more if we're willing to do so, right? I feel like a lot of the time when we feel like we're not in control of that moment, the more parts of ourselves that we really aren't proud of can tend to be revealed. But I think it's within our confidence within God that it takes for us to actually allow that moment to build more character. So, whatever that means to you, if it means not saying the first word or not saying the last word, or if it means just waiting to see what, say, if for example, God forbid, your car breaks down right in the middle of the road, not instantly reacting to it and acting like it's the worst thing in the world, and just waiting to see what happens next, right? Not putting too much emotion behind it and understanding that everything in life happens for a reason. I'll actually give you two examples of this that happened to me actually recently. I would say maybe 3 days ago, there was I was on my way to Epsia's house and there was a cop stopping people randomly just to check registrations, right? And I know that I registered my car, but I didn't have the registration sticker for some reason. And it I was at that moment, that's so weird that I don't have the registration sticker. I know that I registered it and I don't know where the sticker is. I don't even know how to prove to this cop that it's registered. But I know for sure he can look in the system and it will show up. And then at the time he asked me for my ID. I didn't have my ID because I was on my way to the gym. I was literally storming out the house at that time. And I was at that moment, I can either one get an attitude with the cop, which I've done in the past, and I hate that for me. I can either have an attitude with the cop and just give him this pissy attitude as to why he's even doing right these random registration stops. And then I thought about it and I'm like, well, what is that going to help, right? I was like, let me see if I can just use my grace, use my patience to really make this the best outcome. And that's exactly what I did. I just stayed calm and I told him, I'm very sorry. I apologize for not having my ID on me. I told him that I know the car is registered. If you just take the time to look it up, I promise you it's registered. And sure enough, he was like, that's fine. I'm just gonna give you a warning. Just keep remember to have your ID on you. And I'm like, thank you. Because I thought he was gonna write me a ticket for not having my ID. And so that was one example. And then another example that I want to talk about, and I mentioned in our chat about the act of being able to just be alone within your thoughts without a phone, without any music, without any distractions. Just being able to just sit down with nothing and just let your thoughts kind of come to you. I thought that I didn't have trouble with this, and actually, I noticed that I don't do it often. And I wanted to mention this in the chat and ask you ladies, is this something that you ladies are comfortable with doing? And it's okay if you aren't, because I noticed just this past week that I don't do it enough. Outside of when I'm actually reserving time to meditate, it's rarely a time where not able, because I'm able to do it, but the fact that I'm actually doing it, I rarely just sit down and let my thoughts come to me. Without even moving my hands, without doing anything, just allowing my thoughts to come to me. And I thought that was pretty interesting when I noticed that. And the reason why I even thought about it was because I seen a woman at this bar that I work at, and she literally just was able to sit alone. She came in alone. She sat alone. She didn't feel the need to talk to anyone. She didn't feel the need to keep her phone in front of her face. She was able to just be immersed within her thoughts. And I thought so many things about her when I seen that. I'm like, oh my God. First of all, I think it takes a true feminine energy to be able to just sit there in a public place and not feel like you need to be distracted with anything. And I ended up talking to her, and she ended up telling me she was actually a fashion designer for a really big company here in Dallas. And I'm like, that makes so much sense, right? Because when you think about a fashion designer and how much creative space you have to reserve in your mind to be able to create designs, these are the practices you have to be like, this is something, the habits and practices you have to keep in mind in order to keep that creative space open for yourself. So when I looked at her, I'm like, wow. And then yesterday, I had a pop up at my gym for Cura, my meal prep company. And I do them pretty, I would say seasonally. And every time I do them, it's always like a check-in point as to where I am with my confidence about my brand, about my business, because one, I have to stand there pretty vulnerably, right? As a woman, just stand there and pitch my business to people. And these are people I don't know. So I'm sitting there pitching my business to people. I'm talking to them about my business. And that alone takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of confidence. And when there's no one coming up to you or no one passing you by, you also have to just stand there. And I put importance on not staying in my phone, not trying to be too finicky because I'm also representing my brand. So when I'm doing that, I'm thinking, Alicia, how comfortable are you with just standing here and breathing normally and not feeling the need to move your eyes too quickly, say too much, stay on your phone, hide away? These are real life emotions and real life actions that I feel like we have to encounter daily. And it made me think about just how confident am I within myself, right? So, this is what this conversation is about. And that is what I want to open the floor up to you ladies today is just to ask yourselves, how confident are you with one, your inner knowing, right? Like your, because it really takes your inner knowing to be able to stay still in all of these moments, the examples that I mentioned to you. And also your inner faith, and I think those come hand in hand when we're talking about this because you have to have trust in the most divine in order to be able to stay still. You have to have more than 100%. You have to have 150% faith in knowing that you don't have to say anything. You don't have to make a sudden move. You don't have to go look for the answers to know that God will reveal the truth to you eventually. And sometimes is that he will answer it quickly. And we all love those moments, right? We always love a moment where God is answering those questions to you instantly. I would say maybe I think a week ago, I actually that happened to me too, where I literally was, I don't know exactly what it was. I can't really remember, but I knew that I was digging deep into my soul and trying to really build character. Like, Alicia, this thought is coming to your mind. It's a very limiting thought that you don't want to resonate with this idea. How are we going to debunk this idea, right? And so it took everything in me to get that idea out of my soul and out of my spirit. And I did the work. And then instantly, God took all that off of me. And I just was crying. I was in the midst of crying. I remember I was washing dishes and I was in the midst of crying because I was just so grateful for that inner strength. Because of that inner knowing, because I have that faith in God and that mental strength. Because I think that was also the one thing that led this conversation to open up last week during this conversation, as Cheryl and I were talking. It really takes inner mental strength to put that trust into your inner knowing and into God, because It is so easy to give in to these external factors. It's easy to go, I live in the Bishop Arts, right? I can, if I wanted to, I can easily walk up the street, go to a bar and have a drink. I can easily go, there's so many distractions, right? I can easily go and doom scroll on social media. I can easily go feed into some toxic social media BS that's all over the internet, right? There's so many distractions I can feed into, but I think that the most important part is finding that inner strength, and because of your inner knowing, to not give in to those distractions and really find out more about yourself and find out more about your relationship with God. Because that's really what it is too. Is like, all right, God, I want to know you deeper. I want to know myself deeper. And with that, I want to know you deeper. So knowing that that goes hand in hand is where we have to fight for ourselves, right? That is the fight within ourselves that we have to have and be ready to have that fight. We have to step up to the plate every time when we, at times where we may feel weak, at times where we don't have the answer, we have to train ourselves to be able to be willing to have that fight, because in a lot of cases there is a fight, right? It feels like a fight because sometimes the energy can feel so heavy where it's like, oh my god, why does this feel so hard? Why does it feel so hard to just sit here and figure out why it is that my mind is going in this direction? Why am I doubting myself? All these questions, right? Sometimes it's hard to sit in with those feelings. So
That's where I'm at.
that's real good, Cheryl. Oh, that's so good. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with me. No, that's so huge. As we're talking about the moment of uncertainty and waiting on God to give us those answers, you're talking about how when we're making these changes, right? When we are learning more and more about our inner truth, right? You're saying there's parts of you want to keep on reserve, obviously, because this is your inner truth, this is you. But you said two things, right? There's things that you want to release, which is hard. So that's the hard part. That's the change we're talking about. Those are the things that you want to release. But you also said it's hard too because the people around you are seeing this change. So in a way, you have to stay even more embedded into your new truth. This is where you're able to really showcase your new truth, right? The new change. But in a way, I can see how hard it can be because at the same time as you're trying to change and you're learning how to change, you have to stay strong within that change because everyone around you in a way knows the old version of you, right? They've only seen the previous version of you. And I would say it's even more with the people that you love and the closest people to you. All right, well, I want to decide to change and now I'm learning how to change. And now I have to also stay 10 toes down into that change around the people that I'm around every day. Those are two hard truths. And I would say that is what I'm talking about specifically. We have to use that crazy faith in knowing that this is the walk that we have to walk, right? This is the path that God has set out for us. Because if we're 150, like I said, you have to be 150% sure in this knowing in order first play it out and then be able to play it out around the people that know old versions of you. That's literally it. So it takes a lot of strength. So I completely understand you. I completely feel you on that. And I really appreciate you sharing with me on that. Ladies, is there anything else that's coming up for you? That was good. I feel like there's always something that comes up within our meetings that makes me want to, obviously, it's what kind of starts the engine for our next meeting. So I think that this is definitely going to be our topic coming up. Is there anything right now, ladies, that you feel like is coming up? You know for sure it can be a character trait, it can be a something in relations to your career, relationship status, life status. Is there something in your character you truly want to change? And right now, that's something that you're currently working on. In a way, you keep asking God to relieve this feeling. You don't want to resonate with it anymore. You know that if this specific character trait changes or this specific decision changes, it it will help you stay on track with, but what that specific moment really reveals to us is where our character lies, right? How certain are we in our faith with God, first and foremost? How confident are we with ourselves, our inner knowing, our inner truth? And what habits can we build and develop within those moments to really reveal our relationship with ourselves and with God and with our path in life? Because that specific moment reveals a lot. It reveals everything within us, right? We were talking about, Cheryl and I were just talking about a moment where we make the decision that we want to change our character, right? It could be a character trait. Maybe it's she wants to, in a way, keep some things within herself and really ponder on it before saying, being as direct as she is right now, right? So, because of this change that she's deciding to do, she said that it's hard because there's parts of her she wants to keep, and then there's also parts of her that she wants to get rid of. And also within those two things, she also has to act out this new characteristic to the people around her. So I told her that that is the most vulnerable piece. That's the most vulnerable moment because we're learning that we want to make this change. We're acting out in this change. And now we have to stand 10 toes down in this change in front of the people that are used to our old versions, the previous versions of ourselves. And I really want to talk about this moment. And I asked the ladies, is there a characteristic? It could be a characteristic, it could be a relationship status, it can be something within our career, anything. Is there something that we want to change? And it's going to take some inner strength, some inner work to really decide on making this change. And knowing that once we make this change, it's going to change the trajectory of our life. It's going to continuously keep us on the path that God has set out for us. Is there something in our lives right now? Is there a feeling? Is there a characteristic? Is there a decision that's coming up in our life right now that we know we have to work on? We know for sure we have to work on. When we want to get to the level of mastery where you are already, right? You are already in the level of mastery. And but if you want to really like excel, it takes you to really just, like you said, laser focus on that thing. And yeah, I think because naturally as women, we are great multitaskers. We are. But honestly, I think that sometimes we use our level of multitask as an ego, right? It's an ego mechanism. Oh, I'm going to do 105 things because I can, and I'm a woman and I can do it. But we have to understand that giving into that is not cute. Like, it's not cute. To say that I can do 101 things, yes, we're able to do it and we can use it for our greater good in some cases, but to be doing that all the time is exhausting. It really truly is. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier in the meeting, is that when was the last time you actually was able to just, let's say, sit down in public or even in the house, whatever, without any distractions, right? No phone, no music. You're not moving your hands. You're not doing anything. You're just allowing your thoughts to come to you and allowing just you to be review yourself outside of being you. When was the last time you were able to do that? Leave space for her creative mind. You have to, right? When you're at that level, you have to be able to reserve some space for that. And I think it's really time for us as women to be more comfortable with those slower moments, those still moments. And I can admit that I haven't had that. I meditated this morning and I'm so happy that I did. And every time I do it, I'm so happy that I did it. But I get also so upset at myself sometimes because I'm like, why am I not giving myself that? What is wrong with me? I can't say that I don't have time because I do have the time. So why am I not taking the time to ground myself? So important to ground yourself because the more times we reserve to ground ourselves, this is a new habit we start to create. So when we are at those moments where things seem a little chaotic, when we're hit with adversity, we grow this habit, so then we go back to it, right? We go back to ground ourselves whenever we're confused about something, right? It's the same as prayer. How many times a day are we really praying? Are we really checking in with God? And that's what I'm saying. It's that moment of uncertainty that really reveals who we are. Think about it. Every time you're faced with something that we have no conclusion on, the way we react to that conclusion, that uncertainty, really reveals where we are in life. I know that for a fact is every it could be any little thing. A moment where we can actually check in with ourselves, right? It's like a check-in moment. All right, Alicia, how are you going to react to this? How are you going to react to that? So using those moments every time to really stand 10 toes down into your inner truth, your inner knowing, and your path with God. That is the true message for today. Hesitant to do my pop-up yesterday because I could have found a million and one reasons why I shouldn't have gone. It was rainy, the way Dallas is, people don't come out in the rain. I had a date planned with my man. No. I was like, Alicia, you're gonna go because you make time for what you want to make time for. And you also don't know who you're going to meet, right? Sometimes you have to force yourself to be in these social settings because we can get so wrapped up into our same routine that you forget that there are moments that there's times and there's things that we can do in order to put ourselves in circles that we originally wouldn't be in. Exposing yourself on that level, you're able to meet some very unique people and you're able to get unique perspectives. You don't know what you're able to learn within those conversations as well. Literally think outside the box. I forced myself to do two things yesterday. I forced myself to do that, which I'm really happy about. And I forced myself to come up with a date that was different. And me and my man went to an escape room. And I've never done an escape room before. He's done them before, and I know he's good at them. And I'm like, this would be so much fun. It'd be so good for us because we're actually use our brain, right? Outside of just going out to eat, staring at each other, eating food, doing the same thing we do at home. Let's do something different. And that's another thing, right? Just inviting change. And as soon as you get that first thought of change within your mind, act out on it instantly. That's another advice I would give y'all ladies. Act out instantly as soon as change comes to your mind. As soon as something comes, say if there's a change that you want to make, act out on it instantly before your mind convinces you not to. Act out on it instantly. Don't allow those previous versions of yourself to convince yourself that you shouldn't act out on it. Don't do that. Because like I said, I almost convinced myself not to do that pop up, and I almost convinced myself not to do the escape room. This happens to us a lot with our clothing brand because Epsi comes up with these creative ideas, and I've talked about this to you ladies before. She'll come up with something, she'll say it, and sure enough, we'll see the next big brand releasing it. And it's her inner truth, it's her inner knowing, that's her create that's where she has the creative mind for that. And I tell her all the time, and she probably gets tired of me saying it, but I'm you see? God gives you an idea, God gives you something, God puts it in your energy field. And if you don't act out on it, if you don't, he will give it to somebody else. You said that. I remember when you said that. He'll give it to somebody else and you'll see it play right in front of you. And I've seen it happen to me too. I'm seeing it happen right now.